There's a saying I recommend everybody remember when working with computer content. It goes, in order to be affected, it must be selected. So whether it's a word, a sentence, a paragraph, or 20 pages, we need to know how to make selections. Without a selection, the computer doesn't know what to perform the action on. Selecting is different than navigation, but some of the methods that we use are just extensions of our navigation techniques. Once again, let's go ahead and use some keyboard and some mouse techniques, this time to make selections instead of just moving around. Probably the most common thing that everybody knows how to do is to click and drag. If I press and hold my left mouse button and move the mouse, I can make a selection. This is called a contiguous selection, by the way, and I'm just clicking and dragging in different places in the document to show you that I can select words or lines by just dragging across what I want to do. Very common. Let's do a different one though. Here's one that you may not know. If I want to select some content that is not necessarily left to right, top to bottom, I want to do a rectangular area, I can do that by holding my Alt key. If I hold Alt while I drag, I can drag a rectangle that is not in line with the text. Let me show you. Holding Alt, I'm going to go ahead and just click and drag. And you can see that I'm doing a rectangle, but not necessarily all of the text in between the different areas. Interesting, not sure exactly why you'd want to use it, but for example, if you applied bold, everything that you selected would be bold, but not necessarily all of the lines. So just kind of file that one away in case you ever do need it. I'd like to show you some more useful tricks though, and these are simply working with the mouse. Most of us are used to clicking and dragging, but have you ever thought about clicking and then double clicking and possibly even triple clicking? Let's give those a try. As we know, if we click, it simply places the cursor. We'll do that one first. If we double click, however, it selects a word. If we triple click, it selects an entire paragraph. And if we control click, let me click one time to deselect. If I hold control when I click, it selects an entire sentence. Now in this case it gets a little bit confused because there's a period after my initial, and it's not too smart, it just looks for the period. So let's try that one a little bit lower. And there you can see that it again is still including the letter in my name. Let's do one more time. I'll click to deselect, hold control, click one more time, and there we go. Now we have the complete sentence. So single click moves the cursor, double click selects a word, triple click selects a paragraph, control click selects a sentence. If you have a large area that you need to select, maybe even off of the screen, then you need to do something that I like to call click, shift, click. It actually is a universal skill that works in anything, including Windows and other applications. If you click at the start where you want a selection to begin, and I'm going to click to the left of the big Y, then I'm going to use my wheel on my mouse to scroll down. I'm going to hold my Shift key, and I'm going to click where I want the selection to end, in this case after the word market share. What we can see is that it selects everything between the two places I clicked. Now I happen to click a little bit low, so it also included the picture. But basically, I just wanted to show you that click, shift, click allows you to select large areas without having to try to hold your mouse down while you're holding and scrolling the window at the same time. One more example. There's a click. I'm holding shift, and I'll click again. Click, shift, click, just like clicking and dragging, creates a contiguous selection. But Word allows us to also select multiple pieces of text at the same time. Maybe we want to make them all bold or all red. We can do that starting with just a regular old click and drag. Then if we hold our control key while we continue to click and drag, we can drag over other pieces of text. And you can see that all of these are being selected even though they're not directly connected to each other. Hence a discontiguous selection. As I said, most importantly used for applying the same formatting to different pieces of text at the same time. Now, has anybody ever bothered to look at the left side of their screen? What's this area over on the left side called? Well, a lot of us call it the margin, and it certainly is a margin, but it also is something called the selection bar. If we use the selection bar, and the important thing is we want to have this white angled arrow as our mouse cursor, we can click to select a line, we can click and drag to select multiple lines, we can double click to select a paragraph, or we can triple click, and I know that's going to test some of you, but we can triple click to select an entire document. Selecting the entire document is also known as select all, and there's actually a keyboard shortcut for that. Control A is always select all in almost anything you do on a computer. Now, speaking of the keyboard, everything that we've been doing to move through a document can also be used to select in a document by simply adding one more key, the Shift key. What do I mean by that? Well, let me go ahead and click up after you got it and before training to place my cursor. We know that we can use the left and right arrows and the up and down arrows. If I simply hold my Shift key while I do that, then I'm able to select using those same keyboards. So if I move to the right while holding Shift, it selects one character at a time. If I still hold Shift and press my down arrow, I can go one line at a time up and down. And this is very nice because it allows us to be very specific as to what we select. Adding the Shift key to any of your keyboard movements is going to turn it into a selection technique. Not only is that true with the arrow keys, but some others as well. But before we go any further, let me show you another couple of tricks. If I wanted to move not one character at a time all the way across this row, but instead one word at a time, if I hold Control and do left or right arrow, it moves me a word at a time instead of a character at a time. Therefore, we know that holding Shift Control highlights a word at a time, left, right, or up and down. I'm not going to go through all of them for you, but know that if I do Shift Home or Shift End, that will highlight from the cursor to the beginning or end of the line. If I do Control Shift up and down arrows, we've already seen that. If I do Control Shift Home, we know that that will highlight from my cursor to the beginning of the document, or Control Shift End will highlight from my cursor to the end of the document. Don't get overwhelmed, just know that anything you can do to move, if you have the Shift key to it, is going to turn into a selection technique. There is another selection technique that if you've been word processing for a lot of years you may recognize, otherwise you're probably not used to it, and it's called actually blocking. What we can do is use our F8, our function 8 key in Word. Now you're not going to notice a whole lot, so I'm going to tell you what's going on. First of all, I'm just going to press the F8 key. This turns blocking on. Once I've done that, I'm simply going to press my right arrow key, and you'll notice instead of moving, it's like I'm holding the Shift key, but I'm not. I'm just pressing the right arrow. So pressing F8 the first time turns it on. If you press F8 the second time, then it blocks a word. If you press it one more time, the third time, then it blocks a sentence, and if you press it a fourth time, then it blocks the entire paragraph. Kind of a variation on the theme of what we've been able to do with the mouse, as well as the selection bar. If I hold my Shift key while I press F8, it puts it in the reverse order. So I'm holding Shift now, and I'm going to press F8 once. That takes it from a paragraph to a sentence. I'm holding Shift and F8 again. That's down to a word. Shift F8 one more time puts me just down into the selection itself. So that's kind of fun to use if you're used to blocking using other programs or older programs, or if you just like that over some of the other options. If you want to get out of select mode, in other words, turn it off, then you need to just press your Escape key. I pressed Escape, and now you'll see I can move my cursor with my arrow keys without blocking. Those are the basic selection techniques that I think you need to know, but sometimes we need a little extra oomph to select what we want easily. We can navigate to different types of objects, for example. We learned that a little bit earlier, but what if we wanted to select them? Well, again, we could use a click while we're holding our Control key in order to select multiple things, but this could be not only time-consuming but also inconsistent because we might just miss some of our content. While we may not use it all the time or even a lot of the time, we do have a tool on the Home tab that can assist us when we need it. So let's go ahead and click on the Home tab. And then I want you to move all the way over to the far right of the ribbon to the Editing group and click on the drop-down option for Select. Here we can select all. I would never use it though. I'd rather just press Control-A to do that. But we also can select objects. We can select text with formatting that is similar to the same text that we currently have selected. Or we can open something called the Selection Pane. I'm going to go ahead and presume that we know what select text with similar formatting would do. I'm going to actually show you the Selection Pane. We'll go ahead and give that a click. Notice that it says Shapes on this page, and it actually says Picture 1. If I go ahead and give that a click, and then I scroll down, I can see that it's actually talking about this picture, and I haven't clicked on the document, I just selected it over here. Now, do I need to do that a lot? Maybe not, but if I have a lot of things layered on top of each other, or as we'll see in some later lessons, if I have a picture behind text, kind of acting like a watermark, I may not be able to actually click on it. So using the Selection Pane can help me. I also have the ability to turn it off, or at least make it invisible temporarily. So again, if I have things layered on top of one another, this can make it easier to work with the content. I wanted to show you that the Selection Invisibility pane is available. We'll go ahead and just close it out though, and remember that it is available from the Home tab from the Editing group. All right, I know that seems like a lot to remember, especially if you've never used any of these techniques before, but have no fear. I've put them all into a little shortcut cheat sheet for you. It can be found in the Supplemental Materials folder in your Project Files folder. Also, all of the keyboard shortcuts can be found in Word Help. If you search for keyboard shortcuts in the help system, you can get page after page after page of these wonderful, helpful little techniques. They're organized by types of tasks or content to make it easier for you to narrow them down. Remember, one of the goals of Microsoft between Office 2007 and 2010 was to make every feature available through some type of keyboard shortcut. Now, that doesn't mean they're all going to be short 1 or 2 key shortcuts. Sometimes it's 3 or 4 keys together, but still, they are all there. It's just a matter of finding the ones you want and need and not worrying about the ones that you don't. In our case, we now know how to select things using some of these shortcuts, which will make our work with Word a lot easier and a lot faster.